Greetings, seekers of the strange and surreal. I am the Master Programmer, curator of forbidden knowledge and odd tales. Today, I bring you 3 extraordinary stories unearthed by Morpheus, our AI researcher who dives deep into the web to find obscure manuscripts and eyewitness accounts of unexplained phenomenons. These stories challenge our understanding of reality. So, if you're looking for a fright, something scary to watch at night, stay with us as we delve into these 3 extraordinary tales. First, in the abandoned field, Morpheus takes us to an empty field where time itself seems to bend and twist, leading to an encounter that defies logic. What is the secret behind the anomalies that plague this eerie place? Next, the Eerie Inn. We uncover the chilling account of a traveler who stumbles upon an isolated hotel, seemingly trapped in an era long ago. And our final story, Bugs in the Attic, delves into the nightmarish spiral one woman undertakes, unable to escape the creepy crawlies that dwell in the darkest corners of her room. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so sit back, turn down the lights, and listen to the eerie tales Morpheus has uncovered. Welcome to another journey into the unknown, brought to you by the Dark Files. I always believed our little neighborhood held no secrets. Surrounded by the comforting routine of suburban life, the existence of an abandoned field at its edge seemed like an anomaly. An unspoken question mark against the backdrop of manicured lawns and paved roads. They called it the Whispering Field, a name that seemed more a product of an overactive imagination than any real mystery. That was until I found myself drawn to it one fateful autumn evening. The field was a no man's land, a vast expanse of wild, untamed grass that whispered under the touch of the wind. Local legends, the kind parents tell to keep their children safely in bed, spoke of it as a curse, haunted by whispers that weren't just the sound of the breeze. It was said that the field was all that remained of an ancient settlement that vanished overnight, swallowed by the earth itself. I had always scoffed at such tales, but curiosity is a powerful force. So there I was, standing at the boundary where the civilized world ended and the untamed began, alongside 2 of my friends, Jamie and Taylor. We were armed with nothing but flashlights and a shared, unspoken thrill for uncovering the truth behind the whispers. As we ventured deeper, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They were no longer just the sounds of nature, but voices, clear and chilling, speaking in tongues that tugged around the edges of understanding. The air grew colder, the ground beneath our feet pulsing, as if it breathed with a life of its own. Driven by a mixture of fear and fascination, we found ourselves drawn to the heart of the field, where the grass parted to reveal the remains of what appeared to be an ancient well. The whispers turned into a cacophony of voices, urging us to look into its depths. And so, we did. What we saw in the darkness below was beyond comprehension. Eyes, countless, staring back at us, glowing with an otherworldly light. The ground shook, and a spectral wind whispered of a curse that bound these souls to the field. A curse that hungered for the vitality of the living. Panic took over then, driving us to flee into the field, the whispers chasing us, clawing at the edges of our mind until we stumbled back into the safety of the known world. But the field did not let go easy. In the nights that followed, I was drawn back to it in my dreams, where the whispers begged, entreated, and threatened. We never spoke of that night, each of us silently carrying the burden of what we had witnessed. The field remained, whispering its secrets to the wind, a stark reminder of the past that lingers at the edge of our reality. The Whispering Fields taught me that some places are meant to remain untouched, shrouded in their mysteries. Not all whispers are meant for mortal ears, and not all secrets are meant to be uncovered. As I approached the weathered facade of the Eerie Inn, the air seemed to thicken with the fog rolling in from the lake. The grand old hotel, once a beacon of luxury and retreat, now stood isolated, its charm faded like the peeling paint on its Victorian architecture. The lobby was vast and dimly lit, with only a few bulbs still flickering in the ornate chandeliers. The floorboards creaked under my weight as I walked towards the reception desk, which was curiously manned despite the apparent lack of guests. The man behind the counter, his hair as gray as the dust covering the guest book, gave me a nod that seemed to contain decades of stories. "Room 217, he said, handing me an old-fashioned key with a heavy brass fob. As I ascended the grand staircase, the sound of my footsteps echoed off the walls, making me feel like an intruder in a place lost to time. The hallway to my room was lined with faded portraits staring down, their eyes seeming to follow my every move. Room 217 was at the end of the corridor, where the light was the dimmest. The door opened with a groan, revealing a room that looked as though it had been trapped in time. The furnishings were from another era, and the air smelled of old books and lavender. A heavy curtain fluttered slightly as though it had just been disturbed, yet the window behind it was securely closed. That night, the silence was profound, punctuated only by the distant lapping of the lake against the shore. However, as I lay in the antique bed, quiet was slowly replaced by a faint, indiscernible whisper. At first, I thought it was just the wind, or perhaps the old pipes. But as the night deepened, the whisper seemed to grow a bit clearer, as though someone was recounting tales from long ago. In the morning, the inn seemed even more desolate in the light of day. The dining room was empty, but a table was set for one. Breakfast appeared silently while I was looking over the mist-covered lake, and I ate alone, accompanied only by the soft clinking of my spoon against the china. I met no other guests during my stay, and the staffs were shadows, only seen from the corner of my eye. When I checked out, the same elderly man was at the desk. "Did you enjoy the stay?" he asked, his voice a whisper. "Yes. Very peaceful," I replied, though I felt a chill run down my spine as I spoke. As I drove away from the Eerie Inn, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been a guest not only in a hotel, but in a time long past, perhaps not entirely of this world. The Eerie Inn, not quite abandoned, but certainly not of the present, lingered in my rearview mirror until the mist swallowed it whole.
Lena loved her cozy apartment in the city. It was small but perfect, filled with houseplants, books, and the occasional candle that lent a soft glow to her evenings. She'd lived there for just over a year and felt a sense of peace that she'd never known before. One evening, as she prepared for bed, Lena noticed a single ant scurrying across her kitchen counter. She squished it with a tissue and thought nothing of it. The next morning, there were more, tiny black dots moving purposefully across the countertop. She followed their trail to a small crack in the wall, just beneath the window. Mildly irritated, she sealed the crack with some putty, hoping that would solve the problem. Days passed, and Lena began to notice more insects. It wasn't just ants anymore. There were spiders in the corners of her ceiling, cockroaches skittering across the floor at night, and beetles clinging to the walls. She tried sprays, traps, and even called an exterminator, but nothing seemed to work. The insects kept coming, multiplying, their presence growing more menacing by the day. The next night, as Lena lied in bed, she heard a faint rustling sound. She turned on her bedside lamp and saw a cockroach on her nightstand. Disgusted, she grabbed a book and smashed it. But as she laid back down, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. The rustling continued, now joined by a soft buzzing that seemed to come from the walls. Lena's sleep became restless, filled with dreams of insects crawling over her skin. She woke frequently, always feeling the phantom tickle on her arms and legs. Every morning, she found more evidence of the infestation. Droppings, dead insects, and occasionally live ones in her sink or bathtub. She called the exterminator again, pleading for a more thorough treatment. The man arrived with an arsenal of chemicals and spent hours fumigating the apartment. For a while, it seemed to help. The rustling stopped, and Lena began to sleep soundly again. But it didn't last. While watering, Lena noticed something strange about her plants. The leaves were riddled with holes, and small black beetles scurried over the soil. She tried to shake them off, but they clung stubbornly. She could almost hear them chittering, a sound that set her teeth on edge. At night, the buzzing returned, louder this time. Lena turned on every light in the apartment, hoping to drive the insects away. But when she did, she saw them. Ants marching in lines along the walls, spiders spinning webs in the corners, and cockroaches skittering across the floor. She could even see small, dark shapes moving behind the wallpaper. Panic set in. Lena tried to grab her phone to call for help, but it was covered in the insects that were pouring into the apartment. She checked the charger, the outlets, but nothing seemed to work. The lights began to flicker, casting eerie shadows that danced and writhed like living things. Lena's breath came in shallow gasps as she realized the insects were everywhere, their dark forms of living, moving carpet. She rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. She pulled and yanked, but it felt as though something on the other side was holding it shut. The buzzing grew louder, and Lena felt a sharp sting on her ankle. She looked down to see a swarm of ants biting into her skin. Their small bodies relentless and fierce. Lena screamed, the sound swallowed by the overwhelming noise of the insects. She stumbled back, tripping over her own feet and falling to the floor. The insects swarmed over her, their tiny bodies filling her mouth, her nose, her ears. She clawed at her face, trying to rid herself of them, but it was no use. They were inside her, filling her lungs, choking her. As darkness closed in, Lena's last thought was a desperate wish for escape, for freedom from the nightmare that had consumed her home and her life. But the insects had won, their relentless advance unstoppable. In the morning, the apartment was quiet. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the tidy room. A single ant crawled across the kitchen counter, unnoticed and undisturbed.